Welcome to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. आप सबको प्यार भरी सत श्री अकाल, नमस्कार, आदाब and shalom. It was supposed to be a slightly different show, but at the last moment a couple of changes happened. So whatever changes happened, we are going to bring it down later on. But let me say something here which I always say. If you have a question, you want to give your opinion, please feel free to email at hstoor@gmail.com, hstoor@gmail.com. ਇਹਦੇ ਤੇ email ਭੇਜੋ and you can get in touch with me. This way I can hear from you not only about how you feel about the show, but also if there is something which I'm not covering you would like me to cover or discuss. And of course the most important aspect is your opinion about whatever I discuss and what you think about it. Even if it is the other side of the coin, I would love to hear that, because the reason is, unless you tell me, there's no way for me to find out that okay, where I can be more effective or where our voice can be more effective within the bigger diaspora. And that's why it is so important that you should be in touch with me at hstoor@gmail.com. The biggest news which is happening today is, of course, the arraignment of former President Donald Trump. Again, this time it happened in Miami-Dade County. And interestingly, one of the judge appointed to the federal court, which was appointed by Trump, she gave the only judge who actually ruled something in favor of Trump during his fight about the fake electoral battle and fake votes. She was the only one, Connor, who actually gave opinion and gave something to Trump to hang on to. That's a different issue that later on everybody from, you know, she came from Federalist Society. You know, there are two basically, when the judges are appointed, there is a Federalist Society, and then there is, what we call here, the human rights and the civil liberty people. They have their own judges. The attorneys have the bars have all these different organizations, and somehow these organizations happen to have like they get defined by their opinion about conservative or liberal. Okay, and interestingly, once you get appointed as a judge, I have seen, I'm not saying it did not happen or it doesn't happen, but yes, I have seen a very rare events where what happened was that those judges, whether those are liberal or those are conservatives, they give the opinion based on that. But there are few things where everybody agreed, and one of the things which everybody except Connor was that there was no fraudulent votes, no widespread information about where the votes were casted or destroyed or whatever was being talked about, including Rudy Giuliani, what he was talking about. Now today the arraignment is about classified documents, and that is something which we need to talk about today. Whenever a senator, vice president and president particularly, when they leave the office, their records go to National Archives. Everything has to go to National Archives. But the documents were found on three people: Donald Trump, Joe Biden, and Mike Pence. Mike Pence and Joe Biden, they actually informed National Archive that they have the documents, even though there were some documents from Joe Biden when he was the vice president, which was actually, he was vice president till 2017, January 20th, 2017, from 2009, January 20th, 2009. Donald Trump, Mike Pence has already been absolved his whatever it was, because he volunteered, he said that, okay, come take a look and you can have it. Joe Biden, when he came to know, he informed them, then he also let the Justice Department, Department of Justice, and whosoever they were looking at, who was assigned to go and find the documents. Even though we do have a special prosecutor who is still looking into Joe Biden's documents, he still has to give a judgment. In Mike Pence's case, it came. Mike Pence has been absolved. In Donald Trump's case, and I'm going to talk over here, the difference, what the differences are. Number one, he refused that he has any. Number two, he declared that I can declassify any document anytime, even just thinking about it in my mind. Number three, he tried to move the documents around and hide the documents. Number four, he ordered his staff to hide the documents from whosoever is going to come in and check. And those documents were, like classified, top secret, and then there is one top secret. Those are sort of like, SCI, secured chamber, where you're not allowed to have your phone, your notebook, or anything. No communication with the outside world. The room is sealed. You go in there. The documents are showed to those select people. And that's what that information is. It is supposed to be left there. Now over here what happened was that from Donald Trump's property they found everything, including there were documents about Iran which actually are missing from those pile of documents. They could not locate where those documents are. Nobody knows where those documents are. Even though there is a speculation that those documents actually were, either shown or shipped over to Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia and Iran, they don't get along. But as of now they have opened up their diplomatic channels. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, but let us first grab this document thing, what it is. After Richard Nixon was getting impeached and he resigned as a president, after that, there was a law which was passed that all the presidential documents during the person's tenure as a president and vice president, they will be turned over to National Archives at the end of their term, whether they do 4 years or they do 8 years, doesn't matter. And the National Archive then decides, when those presidential libraries are created, that which documents can be displayed at presidential library, because these documentation, they have their own life of secrecy. They can stay secret for 20 years, they can stay secret for 50 years, and maybe even more than that, which I don't know, but I know that up to 50 years they do try to keep some of the documents as secret. So President Trump was found guilty of 37 counts. And he was in Florida. Everybody was worried about the violence. Thank God it didn't happen. There were his supporters, there were the people who supported that, okay, finally the law is taking its course and it is happening. And there were people who are still saying that it is a witch hunt. And to be honest, one thing I appreciate in this country is that rule of law is being applied to everybody equally. And at the same time, let me state here, let the law take its course, and at the end of this litigation and everything, like they say, you're not guilty till you're proven to be guilty. Whatever happens, if he is proved not guilty, fine. But if he is proved guilty, then the sitting president of the time, doesn't matter who it is, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican president, they should actually issue a pardon to the former President Donald Trump. There is a reason for that. The reason is the rule of law has been applied, but being a president of the most powerful country in the world as of today, that also needs to be respected. Yes, whatever is done is not appropriate, whatever is done is not right, but at the same time, a person who has been into the White House and sat on the chair of the President of the United States should not be put behind the bars for any reason. He has done a lot of things. Those are public. I don't need to go on the details on that. It is not just these documents. There are other things. There are more things coming up from Georgia and also from Arizona. There are things coming up, including Carrie Lake, who lost the election as a governor. And then we have Kevin McCarthy and other congressional leaders who are giving all these statements. We need to have, we need to compose and look at what we are doing. Are we trying to rule the country and take the next generation to a better place? Or we are determined to further divide the country into factions, and then those factions will be at each other's throat and taking this country down to make it look like a third world country. Those are the things which we're going to talk about further right after the break. Let's take a break, and we definitely will talk about it, what's happening, including Henry Kissinger just celebrated his 100 years of his birthday, 100-year-old. So that is also very important. We need to talk about right after the break. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. Once again, please feel free to send an email on hjustour@gmail.com with your opinion, your questions, or whatever you think about if something needs to be added to the show. And if you would like to have it more, whichever way you want to, your opinion, basically, so that I can look at it, and then based on that, I can add and subtract whatever needs to be done. And also, moreover, input is needed, because this way I also would know that there is a particular interest in certain kind of news, and that news can be given more often and more incorporated into the show than the other news. So going back to the putting Donald Trump, he pleaded not guilty to all 37 charges. Now the court date will be set, and that court date could happen anywhere from today onward. It's not going to happen within the next few days. It is probably next year sometime. Now the question comes in, He's running to be the president. Right now he is leading the pack on the Republican side. He is way ahead of everybody else. Chris Christie joined the race this week, and he actually really said a couple of things which he tried to get under the skin, like they say here, of Trump by literally on the show saying that Trump is a loser, loser, loser. The reason is because under President Trump, Republicans lost in 2018, they lost in 2020, they lost in 2022. So 3 elections continuously they lost. Now the question is 2024. And there are signs which we are already looking at, excuse me, especially in the House. The House of Representatives, they are already at standstill. But that I will be in a minute, staying to the Trumps. So now what would happen is that he will be, this is historical. Number one, it has never happened in almost 250 years of history of the United States. It's close to that, 1776. So 250 years will be celebrated in 2026. So it has never happened before, number one. Number two, he will be running either under the shadow of going to the court, or the courts can decide the dates, because the judges actually have the freedom that they will give the dates. The client's attorney can ask for a particular extension in the dates, but how much extension the judge allows, that is up to the judge's discretion. It is not that, okay, I can go in and I can say, okay, I'm running to be the president of the United States, give me till November of 2024. Okay? And then there is another scenario, which will be if he wins the election. Let us assume that he wins the election and he is elected as incoming president of the United States. So what could happen then? There are 2 scenarios then. One is going to be that the case may not move forward till he is done over with everything, his presidency. The other scenario is that the court case will go on and judgment will be reached, and that judgment probably will not be, either made public or announced or whatever it is till he is out of the office, if he gets elected. But in case he loses, he may lose in the primary, which doesn't look like right now, but we don't know yet. Number 2, if he wins primary, he may lose in the general election, and the case will go on, and he is found guilty. At that point, the sitting president has the authority to pardon anybody, which means basically what would happen is that historians will have the record ultimately about what happened, but at the same time they will not be able to write that he spent time in the jail and this and that. Though that's a very technical legal aspect, which probably I will ask the gentleman Harjot Singh, who does the attorney issues, to cover that, or maybe one day I will have him here come with me and talk about it. We'll see how it goes. Now coming down to politics, the law itself we have discussed. Now politically, how it could happen. There are people within Republican Party who are already saying that everybody should move on. I'm talking about now only on the Republican Party. I'm not talking about Democrats or independents. But there are also his supporters, the core supporters, about 32-33% out of the whole Republicans. They are hardcore supporters, and they actually are like, it is a witch hunt and nothing should be done, and they still don't believe that he lost the election. Like, he refused to accept the loss and they follow whatever he says. It's like, follow the king. It is one of those things, where who will say the king has no clothes? We have all heard about it. We have all read about it. In Punjabi they say, "Kaun kahe raniye agga ਢੱਕ," means the queen is naked, but nobody has the guts to say that you don't have any clothes on you. Same thing here. In English they say the king doesn't have any clothes, but who will tell the king that you don't have any clothes? So those are the hardcore people. It is, and I doubt if that can be really challenged, or they can change their mind, or they will change their mind, because the social media, which is another, and now we are going into artificial intelligence. Oh God, sometimes I wonder where to stop on these things and what to pick up and what not to pick up. So those people are the people who actually will not let the things go as they should be. What is interesting is, this is really that Bill Barr, who was the Attorney General for former President Donald Trump, he did everything at his bidding, including the Mueller report, which was watered down, and the actual Mueller report was never made public. It was edited, and some of the things which Mueller reported in there, they were never brought up for the public's knowledge, which probably will come out down the road. I don't know when, but they will come out. He actually was the one who told Donald Trump after the results of the election in 2020 that he lost the election, which the then President Donald Trump did not want to hear. And he literally told Bill Barr to resign, and Bill Barr resigned at that point to be the Attorney General for the former president and the president at that time, Donald Trump. Because President Trump actually was looking for January 6, 2021, when the votes are certified. And interestingly, on January 6, 2021, even Kevin McCarthy, who is now singing the Donald Trump's song, who is refusing to say, "The king, you don't have no clothes," at that time he blamed Donald Trump for January 6. And out of this whole scenario, interesting thing is, Mitch McConnell, who is the Senate minority leader right now, he is keeping mum. He did not make a single statement. He did not issue any statement on it. And I'm pretty sure when the statement will come, it will be more like to the line that let the law take its own course, and let the courts decide, and then we will see. But on the other hand, we have, Boebert and Martha Taylor Greene, MTG, Martha Taylor Greene, whatever it is, her, Gates, Ted Cruz, and people like them, who are actually saying that Department of Justice has been weaponized, FBI have been weaponized, and they are actually undercutting the reputation of those agencies. Let us take a break. After the break, I'll be right back, and then we will discuss further on how this whole thing can unravel the democratic setup of the United States of America right after the break. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. एक बारी फिर आप सब नू I'm just reminding that email me at hstoor@gmail.com and communicate. Let me know what you think and what you want to be covered if there is something being left out. So going back to where we were, so what is happening within Republican Party? Okay, I will definitely talk about the Democrats, but let us first talk about the Republican Party right now. The sway which the former president Donald Trump has on the Republican registered voters is immense, and all these people who are running to be somebody, either getting elected or they are looking for some fame within their attached to their name or whatever that is, they actually are afraid to offend those voters, that those voters may go to somebody else and God forbid what could happen. They don't know. As far as the Speaker of the House is concerned, Kevin McCarthy, I already mentioned in my previous when I was talking about it, that Republican Party actually, the House of Representatives, which Kevin McCarthy actually heads, they are already into a big infighting because the debt deal which took place between Biden and Kevin McCarthy, yes, Democrats are upset about it, but Republicans are also upset about it, because Republicans are the one who have to run the House, being in majority. So about 11 of those Republican elected congressmen, they are holding Kevin McCarthy from bringing up any bill on the floor. And unless the bills come on the floor, the law cannot be passed, because it takes time to become the law, because first the bill has to pass in the House, then the Senate, and then the President has to sign it to become the law. Who knows how many bills which are passed in the House, they will be taken up by the Senate, and some of the bills which the House pass, the President already said no. For example, the student debt, which was also part of the negotiation, part of the House of Representatives deal which Kevin McCarthy got it through in the House before it was fully negotiated with the President Joe Biden, where Joe Biden actually kept the Democrats, Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffrey, totally out of the conversation, even though they had backdoor conversation but not directly involving. And Kevin McCarthy and Joe Biden, they actually agreed on that collectively, and it was passed in the House to raise the debt ceiling, and the Senate and the President of the United States signed it. It became the law. Since then, those Republicans, they are up in arms against Kevin McCarthy, and that is on the standstill. But on the other hand, if we look at it on the Democrat side, what happened actually is the Democratic side, they actually those which are actually set extreme to the left, or liberals, whatever you want to call them, or progressive, some people call them, they are upset with the deal because some of the things which were, they thought that they were pet to them, they were not actually, they were taken either out or their funding was reduced and blah, blah, blah. Now, next thing comes in, because to rule, McCarthy has to make these people happy. And these are the people who actually wants to make Donald Trump happy. And that actually is bringing the whole democratic process in this country to a standstill. Not only that, but also what is happening is here, the democracy actually is being tested to the hilt. Department of Justice is being, they are trying to unravel the Department of Justice. They are trying to unravel the Federal Bureau of Investigation. I'm not saying that they are not impartial, they are not partial. There are people who probably are partial, but the question is, at the end of the day, when they put out a report, is that a partial report or impartial? Those are impartial reports. You know, there was a special prosecutor which was appointed by the President Donald Trump, who actually was looking for somebody to blame for Russia meddling in the election. He really could not find much, even though he was Trump picked a person. He did whatever Trump wanted, but still at the end of the day he has to write a report which really did not contain much. And some of the things which they are talking about right now is, you know, bringing up the issue of Hillary Clinton emails again. Okay? The difference between those emails and these documents, there is a big difference. Number one, that has already been investigated, and there are other people also who were doing the same thing, not only Hillary Clinton alone. And let me say it here, I'm not protecting her. I'm putting the facts out there for you to look at and see. And these are the documents which actually contained a top secret information about different countries, how America will respond to other things, including what was being planned on Iran. Actually, it's a known fact that Donald Trump was this close to order an attack on Iran, and the Army, Navy and Air Force and Joint Chiefs of Staff of the United States, they actually were very much concerned about it, that on his way out, if he could not do anything, he probably will order an attack either on Iran or something against China. And that's where the Joint Chief of Staff, Mike Milley, made a contact with the Chief of the Army of China, which is actually a routine, not really a big deal, but it was made a big deal by the Republicans who actually listened to Donald Trump, including Ted Cruz, who actually, when he was a candidate to be the presidential candidate during 2015 and 16 on the Republican side before he lost to Donald Trump actually mocked him so many times, including saying the things about his parents. I know as a person, if somebody will say something about my parents, I will never forgive him. I will never let it go. And I will never, support. But at the same time, if something is right, I will say it is right. If something is wrong, I will say it is wrong. But over here, Ted Cruz is saying everything, whatever Donald Trump wants him to say. What they have, I don't know. I think the power has bitten them so badly that they just want to retain the power at every cost. And interestingly, based on that, I'm just going to throw this in for information only right now, that Supreme Court actually decided with Civil Rights Liberty Union about Alabama. There was a case about gerrymandering of the districts, and Alabama created the districts in a way there was only one person who can get elected of other color than the Caucasian. The Supreme Court withheld the Voting Rights Act's Article 2, whatever that article is, and they actually threw out the Alabama redistricting, whatever they did. So they have to redo it for 2024 election now, because it was a Supreme Court decision, so it cannot be challenged again. So what I'm trying to say here is that this whole scenario which is happening right now, let us not come to any conclusion. We should not. Yes, it is horrible what was happening and what happened, but at the same time, let the law take its course. And also, the deal where Saudi Arabia and Iran, they had no diplomatic connection with each other for years, couple of decades actually. Now they have decided to open up the diplomatic office in each other's country. And I just wonder if, Saudi Arabia got some sort of, thing about Iran and vice versa. Because if we really look at it, which I am going to take you back a little bit, which I did talk over here on the show, the civil war in Yemen, where hundreds and thousands of the people are dying because of the hunger. There was a ceasefire, then the ceasefire was extended, then it was further extended, and now nobody talks about it. And in the meantime, there are diplomatic relations established between Saudi Arabia and Iran, and who is the country who did that? China. Talk about that. So let us take a break here, and after the break, I'm going to talk about the former security advisor to President Richard Nixon, and later on Secretary of State Henry Kissinger, right after the break. Welcome back to Mainstream with Harpreet Singh Toor. Once again, please don't forget to send an email on hstoor@gmail.com. You can see it on the screen. That's my personal email. Send your advice, your questions, or your opinion, and I will be more than happy to share on the show, including mentioning your name, who sent, if you want me to. Now coming to Henry Kissinger, like I said, I'm going to talk about it. But before I do that, there is something which I also would like to mention, that the Twitter founder Dorsey mentioned that during the farmers' protest, India actually wanted Dorsey to, basically suspend some of the news which was being shared on the Twitter by the journalist, and threatened to ban Twitter in India. And I personally am not surprised with that, to be honest with you, because if we really look at the news these days, you really don't see any much news except the praise for the current sitting Prime Minister. And also at the same time, it is being said that there is no corruption. And whereas I personally know somebody that when I talk to the people who recently come from India, by taking care of their personal businesses, that how they had to bribe one person, the second person, third person, and fourth person, which is still going on there. And I'm not just talking about Punjab, I'm talking about the other states also, including UP, where we have Yogi Adityanath as the chief minister. And he recently made a statement about the wrestlers and some of those who want to protest. He said, well, it is a state, it is not the center, which means literally he is threatening the state has its own laws, and he may not allow them to do that. Well, anyway, so that is something, in 2021, when the farmers' protest was at its height, that's when the central government wanted to Twitter to, they wanted to ban Twitter in India. And also the other interesting thing is the BBC documentary will be shown before the Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, lands in Washington, D.C. And meet President Joe Biden. And let's not forget that India is being propped up right now because of the China, and the United States is very much interested, the Western countries are very much interested to invest in India, taking their things out from China, because China supported not only Russia, but they also have the other diplomatic issues and everything. Now talking about Henry Kissinger, I have been, reading about him from my college time, and I personally would say what he did as a person, as a diplomat, and as well as a security advisor to the presidents of United States, what was in the interest of United States at that particular moment and into the near future. Let's not forget that the opening up of the China, the agreement between China and the United States happened, and it was Henry Kissinger's diplomacy which happened. He went to Pakistan. Pakistan was always aligned with the United States, even though the United States is now pulling a little bit back from Pakistan and more towards India for other international and political reasons, which we can discuss in the next show. So Henry Kissinger from Pakistan traveled into China without anybody knowing about it. And that's where the diplomacy took place. And then finally Richard Nixon landed in China to sign the historical deal with China, which actually opened up China for not only investment from the businesses from the United States, but other Western countries. And that actually made China today what China is. The purpose was to create something much bigger and stronger to counter Russia. And then Russia invaded Afghanistan. Taliban was propped by United States and Western countries, which fought against Russian forces. Russia spent billions and billions of dollars to keep that country, because Russia was actually looking to have the access not only to minerals in Afghanistan, but also to have a land access to the warm waters, like they say, for the naval ships and for the merchant navy and all these businesses and everything. So the USSR as it was collapsed. After USSR collapsed, the whole political assessment changed. But Henry Kissinger was the one who actually planned and viewed these things. Henry Kissinger was also the player when, Vietnam War was taking place. After the Vietnam War was over, there was a war between Vietnam and Cambodia. And Khmer Rouge, a lot of people, they probably even don't know this name, Khmer Rouge. That was the people who were ruling Cambodia at that time. And hundreds and thousands, maybe a couple of million people actually got killed in that war. And Henry Kissinger was also part of that. And this is something, which I knew about it, but, things go to your back of the mind. And then I came across something which a friend of mine sent me, or one of my contacts on the social media, where Mehdi Hassan, who does his show on MSNBC, he actually talked about it, that how a person could play such a major role in getting so many people killed, and still nothing could happen to him. There was a time when he was about planning to fly to South America. I think it was to Peru, when, over there, he was actually, Henry Kissinger was declared as one of the wanted person. So he canceled his trip. He is living here in the United States. He is 100 years old. God bless him. I have no reason why not to, say that he should live longer, but at the same time, I also would like to see the justice being done and brought to the people. You know, this is where the media matters. We generally ignore the role of the media. Even today, when we talk about it, we just saw what happened in the previous elections and what role Fox played, and Fox played $780 million for lying actually to the public, even though they did not admit they were lying. They didn't make much changes, but one thing is for sure, they knew that it was not right what they were doing. That's why they recently sent a notice to Carl Tucker, cease and desist, because he started his show on Twitter and he's, you know, washing dirty laundry on Twitter about what was happening in Fox. And Fox doesn't want that to go because Fox has another lawsuit going on right now, and they don't want that. So the other media, you know, whether we have the New York Times, Washington Post is actually owned by Jeff Bezos, the Amazon guy, and New York Times also is owned by somebody, I don't know. All these newspapers, they are into the business to make money for the investors. And that's why sometime, and it is happening more often now, the news is not given the way it should be given. So that news should be actually give you the news, let you decide based on the facts what is right and wrong, not twisting your thoughts. Sometimes I feel when I talk over here on the show that, you know, when I talk about all this going on here, that maybe I'm trying to twist your thoughts against Republicans. But actually my intent is to bring up what are the facts out there. Democrats also have the dirty linen, no doubt about it. But that dirty linen is not being covered the way it is being covered in Republican politics right now, where one way or the other, the voices are being suppressed or they are not coming out. And then we have like Alex Jones, who actually made millions and millions about Sandy Hook, and nobody talked about it, not a single Republican. And right now, while I'm talking about it, I'm sitting here, what is happening about all this Department of Justice and FBI, when the Republicans are talking about that, how it is you know, being weaponized, not a single statesman like voice is coming out to say stop it, except Mitt Romney and 2 or 3 more senators who have actually said, and they actually got a pushback, but they are standing their ground, which I'm happy about it. So today is the time. I always say it is about time to be a statesman, and today it is more important to be a statesman than any other time. Till next time, good night and good luck.